I used to think strength meant not needing anyone, that being independent meant building walls, not bridges. That being alone meant I was invincible. I used to smile and say, "I've got it," even when I didn't, especially when I didn't. Because asking for help felt like failure, felt like exposing something ugly, incomplete, weak. I thought people would leave if they saw how lost I really was. So I became a master of hiding. I hid my loneliness in humor, my exhaustion in work, my sadness in silence. And people admired me for it. They said, "You're so strong. You always handle things so well. You never seem to need anyone." And I let them believe it. Because it felt safer than saying, "I don't know what I'm doing. I feel hollow. I need someone to sit with me in this." But now that many years later, after people have come and gone, some gently, some abruptly after all the birthdays spent alone, after the funerals with no one to call afterward, I've learned something I never expected. That strength isn't silence. It's being able to say, "I'm hurting." That courage isn't pushing through alone. It's reaching out even with shaking hands. That resilience isn't proving you don't need anyone. It's knowing who you can call at 2 a.m. and whisper, "I'm not okay." I used to think asking for help was weakness. Now I know it's the bravest thing I never did. This story isn't about pride. It's about what pride cost me. It's not about falling apart. It's about why I waited too long to admit I already had. If you've ever kept it all together just so no one would see you fall, stay with me. If you've ever smiled when you were breaking inside, this is for you. If no one ever told you that needing someone doesn't make you weak, I will. Because I've lived the other way, and I'm telling you there's no medal for suffering alone. I was the kind of person who always said, "I'm fine." Even when I wasn't, especially when I wasn't. It became my answer to everything. A reflex, a shield. "How are you? I'm fine." "How's work?" "Fine." "You need anything?" "No, I'm good." I thought that was strength. Staying composed, never complaining, being the one everyone else leaned on. I'm fine like armor. People believed it. And why wouldn't they? I smiled. I showed up. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. But inside, I was unraveling. Bit by bit, day by day. I poured myself into work, into tasks, into things I could control. Because inside, everything I couldn't control terrified me. I remember the exact moment my body betrayed the lie. It was a Tuesday, a gray sky, rain barely falling. I woke up and couldn't move my arms, not from pain, but from exhaustion, a weight I couldn't explain. My heart was racing, my chest was tight. I thought, this is it. This is a heart attack. But it wasn't. It was burnout, full body, full soul, full silence. The doctor looked at me and said, "You're not sick, you're depleted." I nodded, laughed a little, said I figured. But inside, something cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just enough for me to finally admit I'm not okay. I had never said that before, not even to myself. But it felt like stepping out of a room I'd been locked in for decades. I started remembering all the times I almost said it. When my mom died and I still went to work. When my relationship ended and I told everyone I saw it coming. When my son asked, "Dad, are you tired?" and I said, "Nope, just a long day." All those moments I could have said, "I'm not okay," but didn't, because I didn't know if anyone would stay after hearing it. Funny thing is, when I finally did say it, no one ran. People listened, held space, asked questions, checked in. And some didn't, but I realized I wasn't saying it for them. I was saying it because lying was exhausting and silence was eating me alive. I stopped pretending, not all at once, but in small ways. I started saying, "I need a break. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to do this." And instead of crumbling, I began to heal. Not from weakness, but from finally telling the truth. I used to think the strong ones were the quiet ones, the ones who never cried, never asked, never broke. But now I think the strongest people are the ones who admit they've carried too much for too long. So if no one ever told you that it's okay to not be okay, it's okay. It's human. It's healing. You don't need to hold it all, not every day, not by yourself. You can set it down, just for a little while, just to breathe, just to rest. And maybe that's where healing begins, not in fixing everything, but in finally saying out loud, I'm not okay, and I don't want to pretend anymore. She never asked for much, just time, attention, presence. And I gave her everything else. Money, structure, stability. I built her a house but never made it a home. I gave her a schedule but not my spontaneity. I gave her later when all she wanted was now. I told myself she was too emotional, too sensitive, too soft. What I didn't realize was that softness was the thing I needed to survive my own hardness. But I resented it because she didn't shrink the way I did. She cried when I stayed silent. She asked questions when I shut down. She reached for me when I turned away. And I told myself that was weakness, when really it was courage in its rawest form. She once told me, I don't need you to fix anything. I just want you to stay in the room when it gets hard. And I didn't know how. Hard things made me run, made me build walls, made me say, let's talk later, knowing later rarely came. She would sit on the couch, curled up, waiting for me to look up from my phone, from my laptop, from my thoughts. And when I finally looked, she had already left the room, not physically, but emotionally. Bit by bit, day by day, she learned to stop asking. I thought I was doing the right thing, providing, protecting, performing. But all she wanted was for me to put the armor down, to be there as myself, not as a provider, not as a fixer, just as me. I remember once, she reached out in the middle of the night. I was half asleep. She whispered, I feel like you don't see me anymore. And I rolled over, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to hold space for something I couldn't solve. I thought staying asleep was less dangerous than staying awake and saying the wrong thing. But silence has a sound. It hums, it grows, it fills the spaces where closeness used to be. By the time I realized what I'd done, she had mastered the art of not needing me. And that hurt more than anything else, because she used to come to me first, and now I was the last to know how she felt, where she was, who she had become. I pushed her away, thinking I was being strong, thinking I was protecting her from the mess in me. But she wasn't afraid of my mess. She was afraid of being shut out of it. She didn't want perfection. She wanted participation. She didn't need answers. She needed honesty, even if it was ugly, even if it was incomplete. Now, when I think of her, I think of all the nights I said I'm tired instead of I miss you. All the days I said I'm busy instead of I'm scared. All the moments I could have said, please stay, but chose pride instead. She was the one who could have loved me through the worst, but I never let her see the worst. I only showed her the mask, the control, the version of me I thought she wanted. And in doing so, I lost the version that she actually needed. The real me, the messy me, the human me. The day she left, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stopped waiting. And I finally understood what silence sounds like when it becomes permanent. If I could go back, I wouldn't say I'm fine. I wouldn't say you're too much. I would say, thank you for loving me when I didn't know how to love myself. I would say, don't go. I see you now. And maybe, just maybe that would have been enough. I spent most of my life trying to be strong. The kind of strong people admire from afar. The kind that doesn't flinch, doesn't cry, doesn't break. I built a life on that image. Reliable, resilient, responsible. And I was all those things to everyone except myself. I told people I was okay when I wasn't. I told jokes to avoid telling the truth. I helped others so I didn't have to help myself. I thought if I stayed strong enough, long enough, maybe the loneliness would leave. But it never did. It just got quieter, heavier. It followed me into meetings, into birthdays, into holidays where I sat in rooms full of people and felt completely invisible. It wasn't that people didn't care, it's that I never gave them a real version of me to care about. I gave them the polished me, the composed me, the always fine me. And when no one saw through it, I took it as proof that no one really knew me. But how could they? I never let them. One day, someone asked me, "When's the last time you felt truly seen?" I couldn't answer. I didn't remember. I had spent so long performing that I forgot what being seen actually felt like. I thought being strong meant never being vulnerable, but it turns out vulnerability was the very thing I was starving for. Not to be fixed, not to be praised, just to be seen, fully, quietly, without conditions. I remember once, years ago, I started crying in the middle of folding laundry. No warning, no trigger. Just the weight finally breaking surface. And I tried to hide it, wiped my face before anyone walked in, straightened my back, held my breath. Because even in pain, I thought my job was to make others comfortable. Even if it meant disappearing myself. But strength without softness is a cage, and I had built mine with pride and silence. I thought I needed to be strong. What I really needed was to be seen. For someone to notice that I wasn't laughing the same, that I stayed late not because I loved work, but because I didn't know how to go home to myself. I needed someone to say, "You don't have to hold it together today. You don't have to carry all of this alone. You don't have to prove anything right now." But they didn't, and I don't blame them, because I never gave them permission to see me. Now, when I meet people who wear strength like armor, I don't praise them for it. I ask, "How tired are you? Who sees you? Who do you cry in front of?" Because those are the questions I wish someone asked me years ago. I've learned that there is a kind of healing that doesn't come from being stronger, but from being honest about how tired you really are. So if you're reading this, and no one sees the weight you carry, I do, because I've carried it too. And I can tell you, you don't have to be impressive to be worthy. You don't have to be strong to be loved. You just have to be real, even if that real is a little messy right now. Being seen won't solve everything, but it might be the first thing that lets you finally exhale. I used to think the less I needed, the more I was worth. If I didn't ask, didn't want, didn't need, then I was strong, independent, respectable. I turned self-denial into a badge of honor. Slept less, ate faster, smiled through pain. I told myself, if I can survive without it, I don't deserve it. I wore restraint like a uniform, a quiet kind of pride in never being a burden. I celebrated my ability to carry everything and still say, "I'm fine." I saw others fall apart and whispered, "I'd never let myself get there." But I did, just differently, more quietly, more politely, more slowly. I stopped expressing needs because I thought they made me weak, or selfish, or dramatic. So I pushed them down, swallowed them, until my silence became my personality. The problem with needing nothing is that eventually you forget how to receive anything. A compliment feels suspicious. Kindness feels like charity. Love feels undeserved. And slowly, you begin to disappear, not because people don't love you, but because you've trained them not to notice when you're fading. I remember once, a friend brought me soup when I was sick. And instead of gratitude, I felt guilt. I thought, I should be the one doing this. I don't deserve this. This makes me look incapable. So I smiled, thanked her, and made a note to never mention feeling sick again. That's what happens when you tie your value to your self-sufficiency. You don't feel proud, you feel lonely, empty, invisible. I believed I was strong because I never took up space. But now I know that strength isn't in how little you need. It's in how openly you allow yourself to be held when you finally admit you can't do it alone. I wish someone had told me earlier in life, it's okay to take, it's okay to lean, it's okay to ask. Needing doesn't make you broken, it makes you human. And the people who truly love you, they don't count how much you carry. They notice when it's too much, and they stay, even when you don't ask. I look back now at all the birthdays I didn't want celebrated, all the favors I turned down, all the I'm good when I wasn't. And I wonder how much joy I missed trying to prove I didn't need any. I don't want to be admired for how little I take. I want to be remembered for how gently I finally learned to receive. Not because I failed, but because I grew tired of surviving in silence. You don't have to earn your place by pretending you don't need it. You already belong just as you are, with your longings, your quiet hopes, your unspoken aches. Let yourself be seen. Let yourself be known. Let someone bring you soup without shame. That's not weakness. That's healing. I thought I was being strong when I walked away first, when I didn't send the message, when I stayed silent. I thought I was strong when I didn't cry, when I didn't need closure, when I said, it's fine, I'll handle it. But now years later, I see it wasn't strength. It was fear. Fear dressed up as pride. Fear wrapped in silence. Fear that looked so much like control, I mistook it for confidence. I avoided hard conversations because I didn't know how to stay when emotions got messy. I didn't say I miss you because I was afraid you wouldn't say it back. I didn't admit I'm scared because I thought you'd lose respect for me. So instead, I held everything in, folded my pain into polite sentences, laughed when I wanted to scream, disappeared when I should have reached out. And everyone called it maturity, composure, emotional control. But it wasn't. It was fear, the deep, silent kind, the kind that lives behind the eyes and under the ribs. I used to admire people who never flinched, who looked unbothered, untouchable. Now I admire people who cry in front of others without apologizing, who say I love you first, who call even when they're not sure they'll be received. That's real strength, the strength to risk being real, the strength to risk not being met. I thought leaving first meant I couldn't be left, but it turns out I left myself every time I walked away to protect my ego. I once sat across from someone I loved more than I knew how to say, and I watched her wait for me to drop the act, to soften, to reach across the silence. And I didn't, not because I didn't care, but because I was terrified of caring too much. I thought strength meant having the upper hand, but it actually means having an open heart and letting go of control long enough to be held. Even if you might be dropped, fear told me if you need, you'll be seen as weak. If you break, you'll be alone. If you ask, you'll owe something. Strength says ask anyway, break anyway, feel anyway. Because being human was never meant to be a performance. So much of what I used to call discipline was just fear in a nicer outfit. Fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, fear of being seen without a script. Now I ask myself every time I feel resistance, is this my strength or my fear in disguise? And most of the time, I know the answer. And it humbles me. Every time. If no one ever told you this, you're allowed to be afraid and still show up. You're allowed to tremble and still try. You're allowed to not know how to do this and still be worthy of love while you figure it out. Real strength is not about holding it all together. It's about knowing when to let someone hold you. Even if just for a moment, even if just so you can breathe. It didn't come with a breakdown, or a scream, or a slammed door. It came quietly. On a slow Sunday morning, while I was making tea, I stood in the kitchen, watching the kettle hum, and felt empty, not in a painful way, just honest. The kind of emptiness that arrives when everything loud has finally gone quiet. I sat down, no phone, no distractions, no performance. Just me, in a chair, with a cup in my hand and nowhere to be. And for once I didn't reach for something to fill the silence. I let it sit with me, like an old friend I hadn't visited in years. I thought about all the ways I'd tried to stay strong and how tired I'd become. Not physically, but deep in the soul. That kind of tired you can't sleep off. The kind that comes from pretending for too long. And I finally asked myself, what if I stopped pretending? What if I just am tired, tender, trying? That moment, sitting at the table, sunlight barely spilling through the blinds, felt more real than anything I'd done in years. Because for the first time, I wasn't performing, I wasn't proving. I was just being. It didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the regret, but it gave me something I didn't know I was missing. Permission to breathe, to soften, to stop carrying what was never mine to hold alone. I thought healing would feel like light, like joy, like relief. But sometimes it feels like rain, soft, constant, unexpected. And you don't run from it. You just stand there, let it fall, and say, I'm still here. Since that day, I've started doing less, needing more, letting go. Not everything, but enough to feel lighter. I still catch myself trying to be strong. Still hear the old voice saying, don't ask for help, don't be a burden. But now I pause. I listen, and I ask a better question. What if being strong means being real? So I've begun telling the truth in small ways. I'm not sure. I could use a friend. That hurt more than I expected. Tiny truths that open tiny doors. And through those doors, people walk in gently, slowly, willingly. Turns out I wasn't hard to love. I just made it hard for anyone to find the version of me that needed it most. Now, I wake up and check in with myself. Not what do I need to do, but what do I need to feel? What do I need to release? What can I stop pretending today? This is not a conclusion. This is not a transformation story. There's no before and after. There's just me still learning, still softening, still trying to be brave enough to live without armor. And that, I've realized, is its own kind of peace. If no one's ever told you this, you don't have to be the strong one all the time. You're allowed to rest, to stumble, to need. You don't have to earn your worth by pretending you're fine. You're already worthy, even in your mess, even in your doubt, even in your quietest ache. If you've spent years being the stable one, the grounded one, the never needs anything one, I see you. I was you. And I can tell you there is no trophy for surviving in silence. There is no medal for swallowing pain. Only more silence, more weight, more distance from your own heart. So if you've been waiting for someone to say, take a breath, you've done enough, you are enough. Let this be it. I wish someone had told me that asking for help wouldn't make me smaller. That softening wouldn't erase my dignity. That needing someone doesn't make me weak, it makes me honest, real, human. So here I am, older now, less proud, more open, and I'm telling you, you can lay it down, whatever it is, just for a moment, here, with me. Let it breathe beside us. Let it stop hiding. You don't have to explain it, or justify it, or make it pretty. Just let it be. The ache, the exhaustion, the hope you're scared to say out loud. Let it all sit beside you without shame. I know what it feels like to be surrounded and still feel alone. To show up for everyone and still wonder who would notice if you disappeared for a while. I know, and I'm telling you, you don't have to keep disappearing to be loved. Let someone see you, the real you, the tired you, the unsure you. Let someone hold you not because you broke, but because you finally stopped trying not to. If you need a sign that it's okay to need more, this is it. If you need permission to let go, this is it. If you need a voice to whisper, you don't have to carry it all. This is that voice. I can't promise they'll understand, or stay, or know exactly what to do. But I can promise you won't vanish just because you opened. You won't lose love by telling the truth. You might even find it there. So, from one weary heart to another, I see you, I've been you, and I'm still becoming. And if all you do today is admit you're tired, that's enough. That's brave. That's healing.